Lauren Wiley. I'm with Pearson Smith Realty, and I'm a realtor, and I also own a staging company as well.
Okay, beautiful. And then I would like to ask, you do have a certification, I guess, that comes with military relocation. Is that correct?
Yes.
Can you talk to me a little bit about that and why you got that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I used to work for the U.S. Navy. That was my first job out of college. And I worked at Walter Reed and another Navy installation. So I just inherently, worked outside of real estate with a lot of military folks. And then that became one of my biggest referral sources when I got into real estate. So I wanted to understand all the intricacies of what's involved with a military relocation. So I got my military relocation certification, and now that's probably half my business is military folks.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you found like your niche and you're like, I'm going with it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. And then tell me about how you got started in your industry. Like, how did that come to be? Was this always the game plan for you?
Nope, never.
Never?
Nope. I really didn't know what I was going to do. My first job was at a marina in high school,
Wow.
like working with people, boat reservations, stuff like that. And so I've always worked in customer service industry, and I got a bachelor's in mass communication, and didn't really know what I was going to do with it, but ended up working in basically PR for the military.
Okay.
And then I started going to open houses just for fun because I didn't know anyone when I moved here.
Yeah. That's okay.
Yeah. And I ended up just really starting to fall for the different types of properties in this area. There's so many unique areas. There's new construction, like here in Leesburg. There's beautiful historic homes.
Yep.
And so I just really started to fall in love with like architecture and real estate in general.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is a hobby for me at this point, so I might as well get my license. And so I did, and I did it part-time while working for the Navy until 2017, and then I went full-time.
Okay. And then you also do staging. Talk to me about that part as well.
Yeah, so that is like very much a new development in my business.
Ooh.
That started this past year. When you get started in real estate, you're usually working with a lot of buyers, and I think it's a natural progression that you start to have those buyers turn sellers, and you also start to get more referrals as you're in the business longer. So I found myself in the last year and a half-ish transitioning to more listings, and staging is expensive for sellers, and a lot of them, they either don't want to do it because they maybe don't understand the value, or they just can't simply afford it.
Yeah.
So I started offering that as part of my services. And when you hire me to sell your house, I stage it. So started gradually building up my inventory, and then I had other agents ask, hey, can you stage a place for me? And I was like, I guess I could. Yeah. So now then I got my staging design professional certification earlier this year, and so that I'd figure out like design principles, because that's all new to me as well. I generally understand like the aesthetic, but it's been really fun. It's a really fun extension of my business, like making homes beautiful.
Yes.
And feel like, because people buy a home based off of a feeling.
Yep.
And you want to create a vibe when they come in.
That's right.
And so it's been really fun to do that creative side to the business.
I did just a little bit with like our Christmas decorations back there, and I found, I don't know anything. I'm sure you're the professional, but I just use Pinterest boards and stuff, so I can totally see that being like relaxing and just putting everything on and getting to think about like the process of the look that you're trying to go for and your inspo. So congratulations to that new certification that you have to do that, and
Thank you.
Give another amazing experience to your clients, like a level up,
Yeah, for sure. It's so fun, and like finding unique pieces off like Facebook Marketplace, and every property is different, so I try and mostly, for the most part, so I try and bring in a piece or two that are very unique, not something you're going to see in every staged home. You know,
that's amazing. I'd like to know, because you touched on this a little bit, a lot of people don't know the value of staging. Can you maybe debunk that misconception, I guess? Like, what do you need that for? Talk to me about why it's important.
Why it's important? Well, statistically speaking, homes that are staged sell faster and for significantly more money than homes that are vacant, because most buyers do not have a vision for the spaces when they come in. They don't understand where the placement would be, and the house just feels cold sometimes, or it's a home that may have a lot of cosmetic blemishes, and it draws, like, it just highlights it when there's nothing else around to, you know,
give it that little oomph.
Yeah.
Right?
It's just your eyes are focused on, oh, that scratch on the floor over there. Oh, yeah. Or, oh, look at this really crappy trim job, you know? So it helps to not only create a feeling, but also it's more or less a distraction from some slight imperfections.
Yeah. Where you can see like the beauty of it. You don't have to always look at the imperfections. You can see like the potential of everything. And it's not really the big picture. The big picture is like, look, you can still make this home work no matter what. It's not a big deal.
Exactly. And those little blemishes, because I started with buyers, right? I still work with buyers, but in a buyer's mind, a lot of these simple things like painting and trim work, or even outlet covers being replaced, they cost significantly more in a buyer's mind than what it realistically costs to do. So the more you can do to minimize that attention, that distraction, for them, the better offers you're going to get.
For sure. No, thank you for elaborating on that.
Sure.
And how do you approach marketing and promoting properties to potential buyers, and what strategies have you found to be most effective for you?
So, you know, we're in an era of video now, and everyone's on social. That is where people are all the time. We live in social, Insta,
our phones, everything,
TikTok, everything. We're all online. So I have resisted, even though, you know, I'm like an elder millennial at this point, but there's definitely some value in that. I recently went to a TikTok retreat and...
Wait, back up a little bit. What is that?
So it is the Homegirl Society is what it's called, and it's a group of women. We all met on TikTok, and we get together once a year for a retreat, and it's basically like a business mastermind.
Okay.
And people are sharing marketing strategies, and some of these women are like 99% of their business is coming from one platform alone, like TikTok.
Oh my goodness.
They've figured it out. They've mastered it. And so I'm taking pieces from that and trying to utilize in my own business.
Yeah.
But there's definitely a lot of power in social media. But to circle back to your question about how I market, it's really important to use a solid photographer. Video is really important, and that is a huge element of my marketing. So it's multifaceted, really. Yeah. It's staging, it's presentation, it is preparation before you get the home on the market.
Yeah.
And there's so much more that goes into it than just getting pictures done. Like, I also enjoy gardening, so I usually bring in planters and things for my listings, and fresh cut flowers, and doing all these things to create a feeling.
Yeah.
And when you're scrolling through homes on Zillow or whatever, it is like online dating. Like, you get one shot to really draw in someone's attention.
Yes.
And that you could lose them if you don't have compelling marketing.
That's right.
And the photos are obviously a huge part of that.
Yeah, definitely. The first impression, like, is always really important. Like, I know people are like, oh, it's not about that, but it actually is. Like, it's very important.
Yeah,
so
hugely.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, are you on your own? Are you working with a team? Do you do everything yourself? How does that?
Yeah, so I'm a solo agent, but I have a lot of support. I have someone who helps me with marketing. I have a transaction coordinator. Ember Crow is amazing. If anyone's looking for a TC, I don't know what I would do without her. Contract to close, they are so on top of everything. And
Shout out Amber.
Yes. Yes. So, and I have some agents who assist me with showings and support like that, but I'm solo.
Okay, cool. Very nice. I'm glad you have that support, because I know sometimes it is a little bit harder sometimes when you're solo and you don't have that support and you kind of need like, wait, I'm not run into this situation. Let me ask this person. Oh, perfect. Thank you. Or just in general, just to have feedback, conversations, and learn from each other. I think that's always so important, to have a community behind you.
Oh, definitely. And something that I've learned as I've gotten, more established in my business and my career is like, you have to know when to ask for help and outsource tasks, because otherwise you are going to completely burn out. And I've been there, and you have to be mindful. You have to check in with yourself and your business regularly and see what makes sense to outsource. What is my hourly rate? What would this look like if I hired it out?
Yeah.
What more could I be doing with my time if I choose someone else to do the things that I really don't like doing, or I don't really have time for? And it has really changed my business, leveraging other people to help me.
So just knowing when to step back and being like, okay, I'm going to have this person do that so I can focus on this a little bit more is important, because as you mentioned before, with burning out, it can happen. Sometimes people want to take on everything and say yes to everything, but realistically, that's not going to be good for your business or for yourself, because you need to take those breaks. You need to be able to say no.
Exactly.
Especially as you scale up with bigger opportunities and more clients. You need all the help you can get.
Absolutely.
And then I'd like to ask you, what do you think are some important factors that people should be looking out for when they are hiring real estate agents, in your opinion? Like, what are some key things that they should consider?
Yeah, so it's a relationship, and you become very close with your agent. At least that's been my client experience, and you lean on them because it is an emotional process. So it's really important to take the time to really get to know that agent through like going to get coffee before you, or do a Zoom or whatever, and just really sit down and see if your personalities align. Experience is important. Market knowledge is really important, but also making sure that agent has the right personality to work with you, because it's not one size fits all,
Absolutely. And then what have been some of your challenges being a real estate agent, with like some of the laws that have been changing and just maybe not having enough inventory around here? What are some challenges that maybe you'd like to highlight and talk to us about how you got through some of those?
So quite honestly, the lawsuit hasn't really changed my business that much at all. I haven't lost any business because of it. It's something that we have always been supposed to do, is get a buyer agency agreement in place before you go out and show homes to people. So that was always more or less part of my practice. So that's a new part, which I know a lot of agents are having, some growing pains with. And we always should have been having the same conversation in advance about how commissions are paid. So really that part hasn't really been much of a challenge. Excuse me. But I'd say the inventory has been challenging, and with rates being higher, buyers are more selective, which they should be. I think the harder part with the low inventory and the interest rates is changing or educating sellers' mindset, because many sellers are still in a mindset of 2020 market, and they expect a dozen offers the first weekend and way over asking and waiving everything. And that the reality is that's not the market that we're in anymore.
No, absolutely. And then how do you set those expectations for clients who maybe are thinking it's going to go a certain way? Like, how do you have those conversations with them? Because I'm sure they're like, no, but I saw it here on Instagram, or I saw like someone was able to do that. Like, are you sure you're not able to do that? And how does that process go?
Yeah, absolutely. So from my experience, I found that data, like heavily educating based on numbers and market trends, it's not a personal opinion. This is what's happening, and this is what's happening in your neighborhood. These are the days on market. This is how it showed. This was the condition of the home, and figuring out where to price it appropriately, and using the numbers. Look at this home. It sat for 2 months until they got to the price, the reduction of where it actually should have started in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So having those conversations up front and utilizing the data that we get from the MLS has been hugely helpful for setting seller expectations. Good. And just kind of anecdotal stories of, cautionary tales of folks who don't do that. And it generally doesn't serve them well. Yeah. And they sit on market, and it's frustrating for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And then how do you stay motivated and inspired in your work as a real estate agent, and what keeps you passionate about the industry?
So that's a great question. So I've always been a hard worker. I grew up in a very rural area on a farm. It was a hobby farm that my parents had, but I've just always been business minded and also a hard worker. I was recently cleaning out my mom's house with her, and I found this old notebook that was like a menu of services. I made a spa when I was in 3rd grade, and I was pretty fortunate that both of my family, my mom's family and dad, lived very close together. Yeah. And we would get together for lunch at my grandma on my mom's side, and dinner at my dad's mom's every Sunday. So I made this menu of services that I would do for all my aunts, and I did it probably so I could have bought candy, because I have a terrible sweet tooth. But I've just always and I didn't even realize that was a thing. But I'm just very motivated by challenges and setting goals for myself, and just doing a bit better and growing a little more each year. Yeah. And my goals have really evolved as my career has, and I'm figuring out, I feel like you can always do better. Yes. And I try to surround myself with people who are doing better than me, that I can grow and learn from. Yeah. And having a solid mentor is very motivating. The way she does business, the volume of business she does, and the cool things that provides her and her family, those opportunities for travel and creating generational wealth. Yeah. I have a daughter, so of course I want to show her what strong work ethic looks like, and take her on vacations and do cool stuff that I couldn't do growing up. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. I want to ask you, did your parents instill that in you as well, being a hard worker and stuff? Because I feel like sometimes it can either be your parents did that, or you had such a hard situation that it inspired you, and you're like, you know what? The only way for me to get out of this situation is grinding it out,
Yeah. I mean, so it was a combination of both. They both grew up in very modest, lower middle class families, but they both worked incredibly hard. My dad worked for the State Highway Administration for his entire career, and my mom started working at a shirt factory. And seeing how hard she had to work, because she didn't have a college education or anything, she always was pushing us to get a good education so that we would have an easier path. Yes. So not only did I see how hard they worked, and they still do, now they're retired and they're still doing things to help out their community, and they're never sitting still. My dad goes to my uncle's dairy farm during the summer almost every day and helps on the farm, just to, he sees that he needs the help, and he does it. So they're great. They have a solid work ethic, and they also want me to have opportunities now that they couldn't give us. So that's super motivating for me.
Yeah, they sound like great people. Just instilling that in you, I love it. And I love that you want to pass it on to your daughter. It's just inspiring and beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years with your business and just as a person?
Yeah. So 5 years. That's a great question. I remember 5 years ago, someone asked me that, and I had these big goals, and I wasn't super intentional about setting a plan.
Yeah.
But I'd say I'm very happy with where I've progressed in the last 5 years, because I was in a very different place 5 years ago. I was struggling with my business and didn't really know what I was doing. So I'd say 5 years from now, I would like to be more into the luxury market. I've dabbled in that over the last several years, and I understand that market a bit better, and the properties are beautiful.
I'm sure, right? Is it inspiring when you see that? You're just like, man, this is like for yourself too, like getting people in those homes, but also maybe one day, maybe you could, or maybe you already have that luxury home that you love, right?
Yeah. I've had a couple multi-million dollar sales this year. Properties that were both listings and the buy side, and like just being part of those properties and that process, it's really incredible. So I'd say down the road, I'd like to have maybe one other person helping me bring on a buyer's agent. I honestly don't know if a team would ever really be in the cards for me. Okay. But just continuing to grow, build my skill set. I want to get my luxury certification, luxury property certification. And personally, I hope to have a few investment properties in 5 years and be able to work less and enjoy my family more. Yeah. So I know that's going to require outsourcing some more things. So hopefully, yeah.
Love it. No, that's good. I love that you already have it's not like a full on plan, because if you ask me where do you see yourself in the next 5 years, I would, in that same chair, I'd be like, man, let me see. I've thought of it, but sometimes you gotta let things just flow and see where it comes. Because right now you're saying maybe a team's not in my cards. Well, what if later down the road maybe it was, right? We never really know. So yeah. And then I would like to ask you, is there anything maybe I have not touched on about yourself or your business that maybe you would like to share with our listeners? You have the floor for that.
Let's see. I would say if you are a newer agent, it's really important to align with a brokerage that supports your specific needs. Really do a deep dive into wherever you're looking before you jump ship into one. I bounced around quite a bit before I found my home at Pearson Smith, and the culture is one of the things that's really important to me, and the integrity of the agents, and that is really important. And also finding a solid mentor and learning from them as much as you can.
Yeah.
And knowing when to ask questions. And it's there are no dumb questions. I tell my clients that all the time. They're like, oh, this is a really stupid question, but it's no, there are no dumb questions.
Yes.
You don't know until you ask. And I think a lot of people wing it when they're new in anything, because some people I think a lot of us, we fake it till we make it, but this is a huge part of someone's life.
Yeah.
And their finance, it's the biggest purchase they'll ever make.
Yeah.
And so knowing when to get support and ask questions, and just realize that it's going to be a process.
Yep.
And you have to be patient and make sacrifices, a lot of them, when you get started.
Yeah.
I built my business on rentals, and everyone thought I was nuts. A lot of newer agents don't want to do rentals, but I'd say do not discount renters. They need help, and they value it tremendously, because many agents don't like to do that, because there's not a lot of money in it, honestly. And if you really treat your clients with care and develop a relationship with them, your business will prosper.
Yeah.
So it completely transformed my business by taking on things that other people weren't necessarily interested in.
Yeah.
And now it is completely different than where I was like 5 years ago.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm glad you brought up that point. So maybe anybody who's listening who is in that spot right now who are like, I don't want to do these, like maybe like you can reconsider that and listen to other entrepreneur stories where like you put in the work and like it will come back. Like the universe finds a way to give all of that back to you because of how much you're putting into, right? Like it can only grow. So that's so inspiring to hear. And like you said, I really love that you're a hard worker because it shows, and you're just like, okay, maybe I can take this road and focus on this. But look, you said, I see people are looking for help that rent and there's not a lot of options out there. You know what? I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna take that leap of faith, and it has helped you.
Yeah.
So I think that's incredible that you are kind of like, I'm not gonna take this path. I'm gonna do this harder path here and just see how it goes. I would like to ask you on that, on the note about having a hard work ethic and just working hard. How do you find time to like balance everything and take care of your mental health and make sure that you are not burnt out? Because it's a hard thing to balance, right?
Yes. I'm still figuring that out, honestly.
Me too.
I think we all are. We could all do better with taking time for ourselves and checking in. I'm a big proponent of talk therapy, whether that's through like an app or, you know, someone you meet with. I think it's really important to check in and have an outside person to just kind of be a soundboard. I also really like to travel, so I try and take a trip, I don't know, every 2 or 3 months to just decompress.
Yeah.
And I am getting better with like actually having a vacation, and, you know, having some other agents support me while I'm out of town, because every realtor knows when you go on vacation, that's when everybody needs something from you. So I'm really trying to be more mindful of being present in my home life and when we go on vacation.
Yeah.
I went to a retreat earlier this year, not the TikTok one. This was like a women's wellness retreat in January. And I remember one of the agents there, she's a mega agent and really has an incredible business. And she made mention of like, when you come home, or when your family comes home in the evening, what would you want to come home to you? Think about how you present yourself to your family when you come home. Yeah. Like, do you come in on your phone? That's like showing your family that you're not as important as what I have on my phone.
Dang.
And it was like,
yeah,
that hurts. Yeah, I don't know if I'd want to come home to me. So
I'm thinking about that stuff too, and I don't think I'd want to come home to me.
Yeah, it was like a brutal reality. And she also said that she takes 1 day a month to check into a hotel and make time for herself. And like, I've heard a TikTok trend right now of like dating yourself. And because people are over the dating scene. I mean, I'm married, so I don't know, but she is also married and has found this like new love for self-care and making time for herself, like just going to a movie or just going to dinner by herself.
Yeah.
And she said it has been hugely helpful for her mental health, her marriage, her family life. And I think especially as moms, we like put ourselves on the back burner and take care of everyone else and our clients, and you forget to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And it's like
who's taking care of you? You need to take care of you.
Yes. So that's a work in progress for me.
Okay.
I'm figuring it out.
Same. You're not alone. There's many of us too who are like, we're trying to balance it and find what's best. And maybe throughout our lives, we found that, hey, this was not working. And now we know, and we don't do that anymore. But it's going to be like that, I think, for a while for us. And we're going to just continue to grow and learn from there.
Yeah, definitely.
My final question, I like to ask everybody this that comes through. Has anybody said anything to you that has inspired you, or maybe you read something in a book, or there's a mantra or a quote that sticks out? Would you like to tell us what it is and leave us with that message?
Honestly, I do not know.
Like
off the top of my head.
Okay. Maybe your dad or your mom told you something growing up, like that inspired you, or that you want to pass on to your daughter.
I'm blanking right now.
That's
I'm sure there's something, but I'm like,
that's all right.
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm sure someone has said something to me at some point
Right?
that stuck with me.
It'll come to you when you're in your car driving home. And
Absolutely.
Like, that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. Sometimes we don't always have it all. So
nope. I'm human. We are imperfect, and
exactly.
It's okay.
I'd probably be in the same spot if I wasn't asking you the questions. So
yes.
I relate to you a lot. But thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you just coming here, sharing your wisdom, telling us a little bit about yourself and the industry. So appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.